All right, so this week we have a new topic. We are talking about 5 ways to be a countercultural Christ follower. Say that 5 times fast, Jed.
Countercultural Christ follower.
Good job. I love it. So here are the 5 ways. We're going to give them to you up front, and then we'll work back through them together. So here are the 5 ways. Radical generosity with no strings attached. That's number 1. Number 2, humbly serve without prompting and without recognition. Number 3, exemplify grace when others would react badly. Looking at you, Karen. Number 4, joyfully submit to your authorities. And number 5, strategize and work diligently to champion others more than yourself. So I made that joke about Karen. I feel so bad for real people in real life named Karen. I mean, it's not fair at all. I know so many Karens who are the nicest people.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're great. And they would never yell at a store clerk.
Never.
But they get thrown in with all the Karens. It's not fair. It really isn't fair.
That's so great. Well, Bill, let's redeem that, So within this, they can exemplify grace, right?
Yes.
So,
yes. Absolutely.
Karen, let's build that. Karen is gracious. There we go.
Yeah. So when we talk about, Jed, what we're going to talk about these countercultural things, what do you think I was meaning by like coming up with the idea of countercultural Christ follower? What is countercultural?
Yeah, I think it just means going against the grain. It's kind of swimming upstream. It's kind of saying, nah, I'm not going to go with the flow of this movement that's anti-grace, that is like this mean-spirited, Karen personality. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Like we're gonna be different. We're gonna set a new tone.
Yes. So when we talk about like the culture, what we really mean is maybe the typical ways that our culture would be acting, right? And so countercultural is like acting differently, just like you said, than our typical culture would do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea behind it. Okay, so let's run some of these down. I'm so excited to jump into this with you. Number 1, radical generosity with no strings attached. What do you think, there's some verses here that are really great about this, but what do you think, what does radical generosity look like for a Christ follower in our world today?
I love that. I mean, radical generosity is like stuff that blows your mind, that you see these stories on Facebook or social or whatever, the news, and you're like, oh my goodness. Like, for example, I showed up at this pastor retreat center. It's called Be Still. Just the Urbans are just amazing people. They're right next to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, yeah. The story goes, left, a very successful business career, cashed in, raised a bunch of money, started this retreat center that's beautiful and allows for pastors to use it for free. And they just went and did this.
That's amazing.
That's radical generosity.
Yes,
it's like,
that is.
Really? Like, you did that? Like, there's no profit in it for you. There's no, what's your angle, man? Are you trying to get something? Are you trying to earn your way into heaven? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's going on here? And it's like, no, just out of pure love, man. Just love. It's
right.
Like, wow. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like the idea of radical generosity like that with no strings attached, right? Because some people will be radically generous and then have a reason for it.
Yeah, like marketing. Put your name out there, or that's a big thing for businesses to do right now. Kind of marketing with a cause. So they're going to throw this big fundraiser for this particular cause, and then their name is all over it in the news and the newspapers and blah blah.
Right. Absolutely.
It's actually pretty cool. I'm for that.
Yeah, it's good. We need that too. But as like an individual believer, it's like radical generosity with no strings attached is is what we're called to, and it's really hard. It actually reminds me of this passage in 2 Corinthians 9:6-7. This is like the premier passage in the New Testament about like giving. And it says this, remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided to give in your heart, or what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And so we should be giving out of like, man, God's filled our lives with so many riches that out of those riches, we should be saying like, I can be generous with my time. I can be generous with my money. I can be generous with my other resources, you know? I have an example. We have a bunch of families in our churches, or in our church, who have said like, hey, just kind of like the same idea as the be still thing, but it's like their own cabins. They're like, hey, if you ever want to stay at our cabin, like, come stay at our cabin. Like, it's yours. You use it as you would, as if you owned it yourself, you know? And it's like, no strings attached. I'm not doing this to get in your good graces or to get an extra point for heaven. I just want to be generous with what I have and what I own, you know?
Yeah, I love that. It's just, whenever you see it, just humankind, you know, responds. Like we all do. It's like, wow, that is awesome. It like warms your heart. You know what I'm saying? It inspires you. So good. Yeah, I mean, it's Acts, what is it? 20:35 says it's more blessed to give than receive. That's what Jesus says. He's being quoted there. And it's just, you know, not only does it bless others, but man, you are so blessed. Like blessed, Makarios, means happy. So it's like you get this euphoria, you know?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be awesome if, you know, we all got addicted to giving?
That would be awesome. Yeah. Yep, I love that. So give to people who cannot repay you. That's one way to do it for sure, right? Like, you know, when you serve people who are in need and they can't repay you in any way, that's a great way to give that way. All right, I'm going to keep moving us on. The second one is this: humbly serve without prompting and without recognition. Okay, so I have a great example of this. I went to a men's retreat once, and one of the guys that like everyone, I was a younger guy at the time, and you know, like one of the guys in the group who everyone looked up to, they're like, this guy is successful in his business. He's a great dad. He's a leader in the church. He's like all these things. We all looked up to him. We show up into this room and like there's only so many bunks, right? And then like the alternative is here's a mattress in the corner on the ground. And he looked around, recognized all of us young guys and wanting us to get the bunks. He was like, I got this one. And he like put all of his stuff on that mat on the corner, the smelly, gross mat in the corner. And he slept there and he never said a word about it. He was just like, I'm going to choose the least option for myself so that these other guys can be comfortable all weekend. And we were all like, we never said anything to him about it, but privately we were all like, what in the world, dude? Like, it was an example of him serving us without prompting and without recognition. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's so good. I love stories like this too. I mean, any of these topics we're gonna be talking about, I mean, are just heartwarming because they go against the culture, and so they stand out, and they're like, wow, what in the world? Why would a dude do that? You know, it's kind of like, you know, if you have 3 kids, let's say, you know, and one of the kids calls middle back.
Yeah.
Like you'd be like, wait, what? What just you didn't call shotgun? You know, like,
right.
What?
Right.
You know, that's just a small, dumb example, but you know, that stuff stands out and you're like, what in the world?
It does. Or like, I often think about like when you're at like a party and there's like a food line, like be the last in the food line, right? Mm-hmm. Like let everyone else go first and don't do it for prompting or for recognition. Do it because you want to serve the people who you're with, you know?
Yeah, that's good.
So there's a bunch of verses that could support this, but I really like this simple one. John 3:30 says, "He must increase, but I must decrease. less of me and more of Jesus, right? I want people to see Jesus in my life rather than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. And obviously we want to do this for Jesus,
Yeah.
when we're working for the praise of man, we get the praise of man, and that's
Yeah.
that. But when we're not working for the praise of man, we're working for the praise of God. I mean, imagine if you believe in eternal life, when you stand before God and he praises you,
Ooh, yeah.
I'll take that
Any day. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. All right, let's move on to number 3. So exemplify grace when others would react badly. This is the one we joked about, the Karen. And we're not talking about the Karens we know, because they're all great people. We're talking about the Karen who yells at the grocery store clerk because they're mad about something, It's never really clear what they're mad about.
No, I mean, this happens all the time, right? On Facebook or wherever. We just feel like we are justified in using our voice in a mean way,
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what? When did that become normal?
I don't know, but it feels like it's accelerated lately. I mean, even a really good example of this is how do you react when somebody cuts you off in traffic or pulls in front of you or does something stupid and almost gets you killed? When you're driving, how do you react to that, And you could react with rage and anger or, and scream at them and, flip them the bird. Or you could react with graciousness and forgiveness, And this has been a really real thing for me lately. I think because of cell phones, people are so distracted when they're driving that I've been more times in the last 12 months I've been cut off or somebody's done something. And the thing that always gets me about it is they look at you like you did something wrong. I ran this red light and you almost ran into me. It's your fault.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
probably
always
guilty of that too. I mean, let's just be honest, Bill. You and I have been on the flip side of this.
That's
way
true.
More than we want to
That's
be.
true. There has been a couple times where I've been on that other side. So yeah. So the way that you would be countercultural is to not react that way, right? And there's this great passage in Romans 12 that talks about this. It says, in Romans 12:17, it says, "Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath." And it kind of goes on. You can read through 21 if you're reading on your own. But that idea is we shouldn't be people who are looking to repay when something is done wrong to us. We should be trying to live at peace with people and trying to love people well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the power of grace, right? It's so good. Grace is so good. And when we receive the grace of God and then we give it out, it is the most powerful thing you can possibly do. Grace can overcome,
Yep.
anything. So love in Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath.
Mm.
When we're gracious,
Yep.
think about that. When someone's just angry and you respond graciously.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so nice. I recently was at a restaurant and I had the worst waiter of my life. It was terrible. I could tell you the story, but it would take a while. And this guy just messed up every possible thing. He was having a really bad day. And I got to the moment where I had to write the tip in, and I thought, do I reward this bad behavior? And I still gave him a good tip. And I did it not because he deserved it.
Yeah.
I did it because he's having a bad day,
Yeah.
And I was like, how many people today are going to yell at him? How many people today are going to stiff him on the tip? How many people today are going to react badly? Lots. But here's one person who says, you know what? You didn't do a great job. But because of grace, you get a tip anyway.
That's a great example. And that could turn around his day.
Yep.
You could have affected, the other, people coming in and getting service from him. And
I hope
all of a
so.
sudden,
It was terrible.
Love it. Well, this fourth one. So we have 3 now, right? Radical generosity, humbly serve, exemplify grace. And now this fourth one of joyfully submit to your authorities.
Yes.
Ouch.
Yes.
Why did you put this one in here, Bill?
This one's hard, right? Like, and people don't want to hear this one, really. But this is the idea of, like, God has actually established and placed authority figures in your life, and how you respond to them matters. And how you respond to them could mean whether or not you're following the culture or you're actually being countercultural for Jesus, right? And a lot of times people don't think about this, but I was sharing this with you earlier, Jed. Like, when I applied to go to Bible school, one of the questions they asked all my references is, how does Bill respond to authority in his life? And I thought that was an interesting question. Like, why does that matter? Why does that matter to a Bible school, how a person responds to authority? Well, as I got to thinking about it, a lot of times how we respond to the authority figures in our life, in our immediate life, is a good indication of how we will respond to God's authority in our life. Like, if I'm not willing to submit to my teacher or to a police officer or to a pastor when they ask me to, and I'm talking about, like, lawfully good submission, not like they're asking you to do something illegal, right? Like, if I don't respond well to these authority figures in my life, how am I going to respond when God tells me to do something I don't want to do?
Yeah,
is the question.
Yeah, that's real right there. I think that gets really practical in our everyday life. For parents out there, my brother-in-law has this one rule: don't make your mom mad. You break that rule, you're gonna pay.
That's funny.
So, and I think it's true. Like, I tell my daughter, or I tell others, like, look for a guy that treats his mom right.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And you got a winner there. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think this is a big one. Joyfully submit to your authorities. I mean, a lot of us have this problem. I'll raise my hand. You know what I'm saying? Like working through this, because we just have this thing, like, me against the world, like, stick it to the man. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
mm-hmm.
and we gotta change our perspective to God's perspective on that. Where God actually says, hey, be subject to those governing authorities. I've put them in place for you.
Right.
Like, do you trust me? I got you.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. It's like, the world is like, how can I cheat and lie on my taxes? Christ followers should be, I want to make sure that I pay what they're requiring me to pay. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of like the baseline of that, is submit to your authorities in that way. All right, let's talk about number 5. Number 5 is strategize and work diligently to champion others more than yourself. Philippians 2:3-4 says this: do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. Ooh, man, our society needs a big dose of that, right?
Yeah, we all do. We're so selfish. It's crazy.
Yeah. But this is like, a lot of times this could play out in a work environment, where you're like, you're working with people and you're like, well, I don't want to like elevate people around me. I want the promotion. I want to look good in the meeting. I want to be the first one to talk. I want my ideas heard. I want to be the center of attention, right? And this is saying, like, what if you worked really hard at not doing those things, but what if you worked really hard at elevating other people around you? That's the mark of a good leader, is somebody who looks around them and says, how can I help the person next to me get to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, that's great, just business advice in general.
Yeah.
I mean, You read the business books and you read the leadership books. I mean, you see that. I mean, Jesus was a brilliant leader.
Mm-hmm.
He was level 5. I mean, the top leader you can get. I mean, so I think that's a huge piece of. I think I've kind of put it in language that I've picked up along the way. Helping others win at life.
Yeah.
Or when you help others succeed, you succeed. You know, these kinds of things where another person puts it at like they want to just help people take the next step. You know, I think that's so cool as long as it goes back to radical generosity with no strings attached.
Right.
Or humbly serve without prompting and without recognition. You know, that's the stuff, you know, that I think makes it countercultural.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. All right. So those are some awesome ways that we can be countercultural. Jed, what's one thing that you want people to take away from today?
Yeah. I mean, I think this idea of just wowing people, that's what I'm fascinated with. And it won't take much in the world we live in.
No, that's true.
Like just keep it simple, you know, paying for someone else's meal, or opening a door for someone, or being kind when someone else is being mean. You know, like these things are not hard.
Yep. I'm gonna end my piece with this. Is my one thing is do one of these intentionally this week. Like exactly what you said, Jed. Wow somebody with doing one of these countercultural things this week. Like go and buy somebody's whole meal for them randomly at a store or whatever, or at a restaurant. Like do this week and just see how God uses that in your life.
Yeah. Love it. Let's go.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. And as always, we'll catch you next week.
Peace.
Peace.